The galaxy runs on rules, not laws. Those can be broken with sufficient motivation and inadequate witnesses, but rules, the kind of fundamental understandings that keep civilizations from accidentally extinguishing themselves. Most of these rules evolved organically over millions of years of interspecies contact. Don't colonize worlds with pre-spaceflight civilizations. Don't weaponize black holes. Don't attempt to communicate with the entities that live in the spaces between stars. And perhaps most curiously to newcomers in galactic politics, maintain a respectful distance from Earth's sector. This last rule was peculiar because Earth and its handful of colonies appeared, by all conventional metrics, to be utterly unremarkable. Humans had achieved faster-than-light travel only 3 centuries ago, practically yesterday in galactic terms. Their technology was functional but inelegant. Their military presence was minimal. Their diplomatic corps was earnest but often naive. Yet for reasons that most official records danced around with bureaucratic vagueness, the elder species treated humans with a deference that their development level simply didn't warrant. When asked directly about this anomaly, representatives from the ancient Mithridian Concordat or the Elunian Assembly would offer variations of the same polite non-answer. Earth is a special case with unique historical context. Pressed further, they might add, the containment protocols are beneficial to all parties, before changing the subject with practiced smoothness. The Valkari Expansion Fleet didn't care much for cryptic warnings or traditional protocols. They were relatively new to interstellar empire building and possessed the particular arrogance of those who have mastered technology without acquiring the wisdom to match. Their resource analysts had identified several mineral-rich systems on the edge of human space that would fuel the next phase of Valkyrie ascendancy. The fact that these systems fell within the arbitrarily designated Earth exclusion zone was, to Fleet Commander Ziv Kor, a bureaucratic inconvenience rather than a meaningful deterrent. The humans maintain exactly 17 patrol vessels in this entire sector, Ziv Kor announced to his war council, gesturing at the holographic display. Their weapons systems are 2 generations behind ours. Their response time to incursions averages 14 hours. This will be a resource acquisition exercise, not a war. Intelligence Officer Nextari, whose 6-fingered hands nervously manipulated her data stylus, offered the token resistance expected of her position. Commander, I've been reviewing historical records. There are inconsistencies regarding previous engagements with humans. Inconsistencies? Zivkor's facial ridges flushed with the purple hue of impatience. Several species who initiated conflicts with Earth subsequently withdrew from galactic affairs entirely. The records are incomplete, but incomplete records are not intelligence, Officer Nextari. They are gaps where intelligence should be. Zivkor dismissed her concerns with a flick of his ceremonial talon. Prepare the vanguard. We move on the Proxima system at next cycle. The first contact between the Valkari Expansion Fleet and human forces occurred precisely as Zivkor's tactical simulations had predicted. 3 human patrol vessels intercepted the Valkari vanguard at the edge of the Proxima system. They were outdated ships with visible retrofit modifications, exactly the kind of cobbled-together defense one would expect from a minor power. The human commander, a woman with dark skin and silver-threaded hair, appeared on the communication screen with the calm demeanor of someone who had expected this conversation for some time. Valkari vessels, this is Captain Helena Diaz of the Earth Defense Force. You have entered restricted space under Earth Containment Protocol. Please reverse course immediately. Zivkor performed the Valkari gesture of dismissive amusement, a slow blink of his tertiary eyes. Captain, your restricted space contains resources the Valkari ascendancy requires. Your vessels are outmatched. Withdraw, and we will allow your colonies time to evacuate before we begin extraction operations. Captain Diaz's expression didn't change. I am required to inform you that violation of Earth Containment Protocol risks activation of the leash response. This is your only warning. The communication ended abruptly. More surprisingly, the human vessels immediately engaged their FTL drives and departed the system without firing a single shot. They're retreating without resistance? Zivkor's second-in-command sounded almost disappointed. As expected, Zivkor replied, though something about the encounter left his inner membranes feeling uncomfortably dry. What is this leash response the human mentioned? All eyes turned to intelligence officer Nextari, who was frantically searching through her databases. I'm finding only encrypted references, Commander. Something called the Leash Protocol appears in several diplomatic archives, but the details are classified beyond my access level. Irrelevant, Zivkor decided after a moment's consideration. Proceed with the operation. Over the next 14 cycles, the Valkari fleet moved methodically through the outer human colonies. To their continued confusion, resistance was minimal. Evacuation ships departed well before the Valkari arrived, leaving behind infrastructure but few civilians. Military engagements were brief and seemed designed to delay rather than repel. It was almost as if the humans were following a predetermined protocol rather than actually defending their territory. Nextari couldn't shake her unease. During quiet cycles, she dug deeper into historical records, bypassing security protocols with methods that technically violated several fleet regulations. What she found disturbed her enough that she requested a private audience with Commander Zivkor. "Commander, I've discovered something troubling," she began, her voice lower than the standard reporting tone. "I've accessed sealed archives from the Mithridian Concordat. 3,000 years ago, they attempted to establish mining operations in what is now human space. Their entire expeditionary fleet disappeared. When they sent investigators, they found only debris that showed signs of impossible damage." Impossible how? Despite himself, Zivkor was intrigued. The molecular structure of the alloys had been fundamentally altered, as if the laws of physics had been locally rewritten. Nextari's inner eyelids flickered rapidly, a sign of extreme stress in her species. There are similar accounts from the Yuxani Imperium, the Solarian Collective, and 3 other civilizations that no longer exist. All of them attempted to claim the Sol sector. All of them encountered something that the records only refer to as the Old Ones. Zivkor was silent for a long moment. "And you believe these ancient superstitions are relevant to our current operation?" "I believe the humans know something we don't, Commander. They're not fighting us because they're not the ones we should fear." The first real signs of trouble began 3 cycles later, as the Valkari fleet approached the Sol system itself. Communication with their newly established outposts in the conquered human colonies suddenly ceased. Scout ships sent to investigate failed to return. Engineering reported unusual energy fluctuations in supposedly empty regions of space. Most disturbing of all, ancient warning symbols began appearing in their navigation systems, symbols that predated Valkari space travel and belonged to no known language. When a single human diplomatic vessel approached the Valkari command ship and requested parley, Zivkor agreed more readily than his war council had expected. The human ambassador was a small woman with features that suggested mixed ancestry and eyes that held the particular weariness of someone delivering bad news for the 100th time. She introduced herself as Eliana Reyes, Special Envoy for Containment Protocols. "Commander Zivkor," she began without preamble, "your fleet has now triggered 3 of the 5 conditions required for full release of the Leash Protocol. I am here to offer you one final opportunity to withdraw before we are forced to proceed with complete containment failure." Zivkor maintained his composure, though his facial ridges had paled to a light lavender, a physiological tell that Nextari noted with alarm. "Ambassador Reyes, your cryptic threats do not impress the Valkari ascendancy. Explain yourself clearly or this parley is concluded." Reyes sighed, a very human gesture of resignation. "Very well. The simple version is this. Humans are not the apex predators of Earth. We never were. We evolved alongside something far more dangerous, entities that operate on principles your science would consider impossible. Ancient, powerful, hungry. We learned to contain them, to establish a symbiotic relationship rather than being consumed. What you call the Leash Protocol is humanity's greatest achievement. We keep them controlled, we provide them with what they need, and in exchange, they don't unmake reality around them." The War Council chamber filled with the clicking sounds of Valkari skepticism. "You expect us to believe that humans, barely space-capable by galactic standards, are containing entities of such power?" Zivkor's tone was scornful, but Nextari noticed his claws digging into the command podium. "We don't contain them through technological superiority. Reyes explained with the patience of a teacher addressing a particularly dense student. We contain them because we understand them. We evolved with them. Our minds are compatible with theirs in ways no other species can replicate. The containment facilities scattered throughout this sector aren't prisons. They're habitats, carefully maintained environments where the old ones can exist without disrupting the fabric of conventional spacetime. And you expect us to believe that you would release these supposedly dangerous entities? Zivkor challenged. Ambassador Reyes met his gaze steadily. We already have. Your lost outposts weren't destroyed by human forces, Commander. The evacuation protocols weren't to save our colonists from you. They were to clear the area of mines the old ones might find interesting. We've been systematically removing everyone except your forces from their hunting grounds. The silence that followed was broken by the shrill alarm of the command ship's deepest sensors, instruments designed to detect anomalies in spacetime itself. Throughout the sector, massive structures that the Valkari had dismissed as abandoned human outposts were activating, their true nature becoming apparent as containment fields collapsed in carefully orchestrated sequences. What emerged defied description in any Valkari language. They were not creatures in any conventional sense. They were possibilities given form, paradoxes with intent, geometries that shouldn't exist intersecting with realities that couldn't coexist. Some appeared as voids that light bent around but never illuminated. Others manifested as cascading fractals that repeated infinitely inward and outward simultaneously. The more comprehensible ones resembled terrestrial sea creatures stretched across dimensions that the Valkari mind could only partially perceive. We call them the Old Ones, Ambassador Reyes said quietly as the command ship's view screens struggled to render what the sensors were detecting. They were here before us. They'll be here after us. We don't control them. We negotiate with them. We're the only species they recognize as worth communicating with, rather than simply consuming. Across the fleet, Valkari ships began reporting impossible malfunctions, matter reconfiguring at the molecular level, crew members experiencing temporal dislocations, entire sections of vessels simply ceasing to exist without explosion or debris. It wasn't destruction as the Valkari understood it. It was unmaking, as if the ships had never been constructed in the first place. Stop this, Zivkor demanded, his composure finally breaking. Recall your weapons. They aren't weapons, Reyes corrected him. They're entities exercising their nature, and I can't simply recall them. The containment process is delicate and time-consuming. It requires specific conditions, rituals your science would consider superstition, and the presence of trained human handlers. The best I can offer is to begin the containment process once you've withdrawn your remaining forces from our space. The Valkari surrender was transmitted 16 minutes later. As promised, the humans began the slow, methodical process of reestablishing what they called the leash. Valkari sensors recorded what appeared to be impossible, human specialists communicating with the entities through methods that combined advanced technology with gestures and vocalizations that seemed almost religious in nature. The old ones responded, gradually returning to their containment habitats like obedient pets answering their master's call. In the aftermath, as the battered remnants of the Valkari fleet prepared to depart human space, Intelligence Officer Nextari requested a final meeting with Ambassador Reyes. Why maintain the secrecy? She asked. If the galaxy knew what you were containing, then everyone would either avoid us entirely or attempt to weaponize the old ones. Reyes finished for her. Neither scenario serves anyone's interests. The elder species understand the situation and maintain the protocols. The younger races eventually learn, usually with fewer casualties than your people suffered. And the old ones? What do they gain from this arrangement? Ambassador Reyes smiled thinly. Existence, purpose, entertainment. It's difficult to translate their concepts into terms you would understand. Let's just say that humans make interesting companions for entities that would otherwise experience reality very differently. As the Valkari fleet limped home, the Galactic Council received their report with the particular lack of surprise that confirmed Nextari's suspicions. They had known all along. The official records were updated with the same vague language that had frustrated her initial research. Earth Sector remains a special administrative zone under Protocol 7 Alpha. Standard exclusion boundaries apply. The unofficial addendum, shared only among the elder species, was more direct. Humans remain the only known species capable of containing the old ones. The Leash Protocol continues to function as designed. Gratitude offerings according to Schedule C are recommended. The galaxy continued to run on rules. The rule about maintaining a respectful distance from Earth's sector was now understood by one more species, not as an arbitrary restriction, but as the sensible caution of those who know that some doors are kept closed for very good reasons, and that the only thing standing between the galaxy and what waits behind those doors is a species of bipeds who evolved on a planet where they weren't the most dangerous things in the neighborhood. Humans weren't feared. They were necessary. They were the zookeepers of horrors, and the galaxy slept better, knowing they took their job seriously.